Welcome to another episode of Write and Shine, Shining Through Your Words, author series, proudly brought to you by Write and Shine Media House. My name is Magriet, and I'm absolutely delighted to have my next guest here with me. Jack, please will you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit more about the books you are coming to tell us about?
Okay. Well, my name is Jack Straw, and I'm right here in the heart of the United States in Waterloo, Iowa. I'm 66 years old. I say semi-retired because I don't think you really retire anymore. A little background on me. I was born in Iowa. I've lived a number of states, but that's where I've lived most of my life. Other than when I took a 10-year sabbatical to spend with the Federal Bureau of Prisons after stealing money. I was guilty. We'll get right to that point right now. And during that time, actually, I started my writing career, I guess we'll call it, because I learned during that time period when you're isolated from the outside world, if you look at the world correctly, it's all quite humorous,
Yes.
even inside the prison. It's a perspective thing, and I've had a lot of people tell me how that could be humorous, but it is. If you don't look at that side, you can get very dark and dismal, and I don't want to do that. Since I've been home, I'm remarried. I have a lovely young wife, and I say that because I'm 66 and she's 42.
Okay.
So she's a lot younger than I am. I have 14 grandchildren, four lovely daughters, two stepdaughters, three great grandchildren. Uh, I think that pretty much catches us up, I think.
That's amazing. And how you tell your chapter in prison as well is fascinating because it really is all chapters and it sounds like it's been a defining time for you as author as well to spend time with yourself and your thoughts. So I'm fascinated by how you started your writing process. Did you write books or content before you went, or is it something that was inspired while you were in prison?
I never once thought about writing a book before that.
Wow.
No, I was busy. I had, even before I got in trouble, I was in law enforcement for 15 years, and my crime had nothing to do with law enforcement. My record in law enforcement was impeccable, which is really weird if you go from there to prison. But so I did that. I was a football coach. I was very busy all the time. There was no thought of that. Prison kind of, I guess you say, forced it on me. The only thing I wrote when I was young, I used to write a lot of poetry and stuff in school, and it was sarcastic poetry that used to get the attention of the wrong people. And they used to ask me to stay after school and hang out, and explain why I would write this. That was my writing career beforehand.
I have
So
to
to
share
answer your
this,
question shortly,
Jack. Sorry, but I just before we jumped on, I was going through my reels and they were someone was saying the little girl got in trouble because she was sarcastic. What she wrote to the teacher was sarcastic, and the teacher asked her, "What will your parents say if I phone them?" And the little girl said, "Hello." So just the sarcastic.
I love that. Yeah, that's perfect.
It is,
Yeah,
so it
so
sounds like
it
your
is.
type of poetry.
It is. You know, I think people get too touchy about sarcasm, right,
Yes.
sometimes. And I when I say sarcasm, I don't, it's a perspective I think you have to keep your humor going because a lot of things around you are ridiculous.
Yes.
Now that's just opinion. And everything I tell you
I
today
agree.
is just my opinion. It's no one
Yes.
else's, it's not fact, it's just my opinion. But that's where my sarcasm came from. But it's not poke people in the eye sarcasm either.
Yes.
It's it's more of I don't know what you would call it, but it's just look at the funny side of things. And if when you can do that, whether it's politics in America or prison or school, religion, uh, I think you're better off. The tension goes away a little bit.
I agree. And it definitely is perspective because you will look at the same situation with lenses of humor. And we're not saying everything is ha funny, but there is humor even in the seriousness sometimes. You have to find that little bit of humor everywhere.
Exactly. And when I was very young, I hung my grandfathers. Both of them were very important people in my life, and I didn't realize till much later uh, their sarcasm had rubbed off on me, and I didn't know it was sarcasm at the time. I thought it was the gospel. Yeah, I thought it was that was all the reality. Whatever they said, they didn't say a lot, but uh, I realize now it did, and thankfully, so I'm glad that it did.
Yes, no, absolutely. And Jack, tell us a bit more about the books that you wrote.
Well, the first book, actually, how I took on the first book. While I was in prison, I met a man named Doug Williams, and now this kind of goes back to my law enforcement career, and I'm going to how that worked there. And Doug had been actually worked in the White House for President Johnson and President Nixon.
Wow.
He left there and had been involved in law enforcement. He was a polygraph operator, lie detector, and that's how he got confessions from people. And Doug uh, came to his senses, realized the polygraph is it's a horrible tool. It doesn't work. It's been scientifically disproven. People have gone to jail, lost their jobs for being submitted to a polygraph test. It's at the whim of the operator. And so he was kind of a crusader in this thing, and he wanted to he wanted to write a book about it. And I met him in prison. Well, I had used the polygraph as well, and I knew it was a joke.
Yes.
I never thought about you writing a book about it. And telling that Doug, he was very adamant because I wrote some things. I started writing a few short stories before that. He loved it. He says you got to do this. So we got together, and I wrote the book. It's called False Confessions. And and then I'm going to hold this up so you can see this real quick. This is the first
Please.
book. This is False Confessions. Can you see it okay there?
Yes, yes. Oh,
Okay.
wow.
And False Confessions is really the story of Doug Williams' fight against the polygraph. Now, Doug passed away
Wow.
during the COVID situation. He was in his 70s. Fascinating guy. His story is fascinating. He was fascinating. And that's, I guess I have to give him credit as being a catalyst to get me into
Yes.
writing. And once I got into that, it's nonfiction, which we get, and there's some conversations like you guys, they say literary license it, but they stay accurate. Once I'd done that, and then it kind of got into me that, I like this stuff.
That's good.
And while you're in prison, you need something to do besides get involved in. There's a lot of stuff you can get involved with in prison. Very little is favorable.
Yes.
Uh, there is no, in the federal prison system in the United States, there's no rehabilitation program. Anyone who thinks that's kidding themselves. There's just about everything but that. And when you leave the prison, they basically say, "There, here's your bus ticket. See ya." And so uh, I was fortunate because I had family support. A lot of guys don't. I'm kind of veering off the path a little bit. But my point of all that is, if you don't find something
Yes.
positive to do while you're there, you're not coming out in very good shape. And so that was my first thing, and that book has been out since what's about 5 years, 4 or 5 years, and it's done okay. It's kind of we're going back out. It's kind of going again. It actually has a manual in the back of it on how to pass the polygraph test.
Oh,
We actually dug,
wow.
yeah,
My son
it's in
would
the back
read
of the
it,
book.
eh?
Yeah, it's very weird because we have the book about the guy that wrote it, and in the back of it, here's how you pass it. And I've heard from
Wow.
people who've taken it go, thanks a lot. I had no idea it was that simple. Yeah, it's pretty simple, you know.
That's
Um,
incredible.
so that was the first one, and it's nonfiction that I wrote. And while you're there, you read a lot, and that's where uh, a lot of things were happening around the prison that my perspective started changing from you're here on your own, you're
Yes.
unhappy, how's your family? Uh, all you can do is keep contact with those that you care about as best you can. But the more I saw things, the more I thought, man, this is fodder for story here. This is the whole thing.
Yes. Wow.
But I couldn't decide on a story. But I knew the characters that I wanted to get involved with. So what I did, this book just came out. It's taken a while to do. But I wrote a book where all the characters in it are based on people I met in prison. The names are
Wow.
changed there, and but I had to have a story. So I thought in this day and age of crazy politics, the story is really about what would happen if a State Department courier was kidnapped from Washington with important documents, and the president didn't trust anyone, so he got some of his followers from all across the United States, as goofy and squirrely as they are, to find this guy and bring him back. Uh, So that's the story. It's a comedy, and
Goodness.
it is. I'm going to say it's fiction, though it's based on some characters. And I'll hold up. This is one right here. It's called Codename Eclectics,
That
and
is so
and
cool.
and eclectics comes from because all of the characters are very eclectic. Um, it's a very sarcastic humor book. It picks
Yes,
on politics. It picks on religion. It picks on the prison system, but not, like I said, in a vicious way.
yes, yes.
So
And
that's
the
kind of where I
feed
got started.
that's incredible.
Go
And the
ahead.
feedback that you're receiving, are people, what are they saying about your book?
Pardon me? I
Oh,
thought you
what are
said.
people saying, the reviews? What are they saying about your book?
Well, the first one had very good reviews and stuff. Even on Amazon, I see we still have a lot of good reviews and things. The second book just came out. I had some early reviewers, and the people that know me, they go, "That is so you." They said, and the people that don't know me, they said, "Man, what's wrong with this guy? He's crazy. This is funny." I had a guy that I, in fact, it just happened yesterday. I
Yes,
left a book for someone to read it at a doctor's office in the hospital, and I happen to know the guy that works there. He's reading it. He goes, I picked up this book. Is this your book? And he goes, yeah. He goes, I started reading this last night. He goes, this is bizarre. It's funny. I was laughing. My wife told me to shut up. So I kept laughing. And then she read some. She started laughing. I do a lot of comparisons in it.
yes.
So my reviews are, people think it's very funny. I can never write a follow up to it because it kind of spilled my humor brain into it. So,
Yes,
so right now, I haven't heard anything bad.
yes,
The first book, I heard bad things from polygraph operators because they were mad about it.
of
But
course.
the second book seems to be okay.
A more creative type of book, it sounds. It's wonderful. And Jack, what advice would you give anyone contemplating to write a book but not sure what to write?
Well, first of all, I've read tons of theories on how you start out writing. For me, I had to write something that kept my attention because if you
Yes,
don't have something that gets your attention and you're going to sit down and work at it, you're not going to finish it. And again, everything I'm telling you here is my opinion. But I need a catalyst, and the catalyst is my interest, and the interest is
yes,
what my topic is. And uh, and then you kind of write it for yourself, So uh, there's a big difference between nonfiction and fiction, as you know. I think nonfiction's much easier because a lot of topics laid out. But I guess the first thing you have to do is decide which way you want to go, and
yes,
then find something you have an interest in, whatever it is, and start with that. And I think that it. I hate to say it's work. People say it's work. I don't think that it's work. It, and I use the term passion, but I've heard people, it's overused. But I guess if you have a passion for it, it's like working out. If
yes.
you want to work out, it's a passion. And so I say find something of interest that you can actually dedicate yourself to because it takes dedication.
100%. I couldn't have said it better. I also say it's like going to the gym to do a workout when you write. And the more you do it, the easier it gets.
Absolutely. And the thing is, I think people get worried about what people are going to think.
Yes.
Hey, listen, this life is going to pass, yeah. And a lot of people say, I wish I wrote a book. I wish I'd done this. I wish
Mm.
I'd done that. And if you don't do it, you're never going to know. And even if you only write it for yourself and a few family members, I think the fact that people can look at it and get a little smile out of it or relate to you or think about you, it can be a legacy thing, or you don't
Yes.
know, it could take off. It could have great interest, but the thing is, do it for yourself to get it out of your system, I guess.
Yes. Yeah, that's fantastic. And how can people get your books? Is it on Amazon or where can they buy it?
Yeah, they're on Amazon, and they're both on Amazon right now. And so, yeah, I love what they'd like to. That's great. Um, like I said, the second one I haven't looked at how many sales got. The first one sold pretty well. But and I love any comments people have. I don't fear criticism. If you've done 10 years in prison, people criticize you. I always tell people, they say, "Are you afraid that people are going to say to you?" I said, "I've looked down the double barrel shotgun of the federal government.
Yes.
Criticism is not going to scare me or hurt my
Yes.
feelings. And in fact, can make you better,
Yeah. That's
and
very good.
that's very important."
That's very good advice because people normally, in the writing side of things are very scared of the criticism. And I also say it's our friend if someone criticizes you. You can learn from it.
Yeah, I guess I think sometimes there's a class of people that I have met that like to criticize people out of meanness, but
Yeah.
you'll know those people right
Yes,
away,
it's
and you can
true.
tell that, and just let them float away into their little world because quite often they're not very happy.
Yes.
Uh, but there are, but there's I feel a much larger class of people out there who do want you to succeed,
Mm.
and they have some ideas, and it's one of those things I always tell people. They ask me something, I said, okay, here's what I think. Now, after I tell you this, you can take all of it, some
Yeah.
of it, or none of it. That's up to you.
True.
It's just go with that. And I've had some good advice. I've had some advice that was kind of strange, and some of that was even good.
Yes.
So yeah, you don't. I wouldn't get touchy about that because if you're going to put yourself out in the public, you're going to hear from people.
Oh, yes,
You
definitely.
know.
Definitely. And Jack, I have to ask you, I read something about a Santa Claus somewhere.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, people always laugh about that. There's some things they say in prison. How can it be funny?
Yes.
Well, I tell them one time when I was in prison, I ended up spending 30 days. They don't call it the hole in prison. They call it the shoe, SHU.
Okay,
It's
I
it's
like it.
yeah, it's security housing unit, but everybody else calls it the hole, so that's what I call it. But one time, I got stuck in the hole, and there's two. You live on a cement platform with a mattress as thick as a towel.
Oh my
The lights
God.
are on 24 hours a day. And after I was in there the third day, they put another guy in there with me, and he looked like Santa Claus. I mean,
That's
and he
incredible.
didn't. Yeah, it was pretty bizarre. So I'm thinking, I'm laying there thinking, here I am in the hole on the Mexican border in a prison with Santa Claus. There's got to be something funny in this here.
That sounds like a movie to me, not just a book, eh?
Well, you meet a lot of characters like that, and the thing in prison, there's three different types of people in prison, and the first one is people who've committed a crime.
Yes.
Doesn't mean they're criminals. These guys have committed a crime. They're never going to do it again. They're scared to death to ever do
Mm.
it again, and then they want to get time done and get out. The next one are the criminals, and these guys, I live with a lot of them. Guys from you get the drug cartel people, some of the bank robber stuff. The whole
Wow.
time they're in prison, they're planning their next deal. Those are
Mm.
criminals. They're never going to change. And then you got the third group, and that's the crazies.
Oof.
They're crazy. There's a lot of insane people in prison, and some of them fit in those two first categories as well, but they're out there. I,
Yes.
I had a guy, I'll give you an example. I had a guy that one morning he came walk up to me by the basketball court. He says, "You don't believe this, but this morning I woke up speaking fluent Russian." I said, "Well, say something." He goes, "It went away." And off he goes, you know. And these are kind of, there's, I can go on for hours about bizarre things. I'll tell you one more quick story to give you an
Please
idea.
do.
We had a couple guys. When you're in La Tuna, which is a federal correctional institute on the Mexican border, right by Juarez in El Paso, and it's infested with mice and rats, and you got cockroaches and scorpions running around there. Cockroaches are huge. Anyway, in our unit, there was a mouse was getting in everybody's lockers and
Oh
stuff
my
all the time. And here's how strange inmates are. No one wanted to kill it. We just wanted to catch it and get it out of there. So somebody caught it and they took it out and released it. About a day later, I saw this mouse again run out of my locker. I said, "We got another one in here." And they go, "That's probably the same one." I says, "No, this one's got something wrong. He's got sides all pink." And the guy says, "No, when we caught him, we shaved him." I said, "You shaved him just one side. We're trying to teach him a lesson."
Oh
I said,
my.
"Why would you shave a mouse?" And he goes, "We didn't shave the whole mouse, just one side." I said, "Okay." And they thought that was normal to go in and shave a mouse. Uh,
That's also
So,
a book title, if you ask me.
yeah.
But
So
that's
it's,
the Who Stole My Cheese? You can have the book.
yeah, yeah. So that's what you run into is people who think, and they think that's normal. You know,
Wow.
they make their own hooch in prison out of rotten fruit, and it smells like vomit, and they drink it. They
Yeah.
think that's normal.
Yes.
And yeah, you can go on forever. But the reason I tell you those things is that's what I had to start basing the stories on. I didn't
Exactly.
take the violent stories. There's a lot of violent stories that down there, but that's not in there.
Mm,
That's but the crazy stuff. And
wow.
I sit there sometimes just laugh to myself just watching people, and so that's kind of what gave me my direction. It saved me mentally.
I just wanted to say, like, I think it was a very brave thing to do that way, but also for you to almost just stay within your head, because I think your circumstances could have derailed you almost mentally with that things around you.
Well, you can get into that. You can, and people do. And it's kind of a
Yes.
sad thing because there's no one there to save them or help them. You don't go in there, uh, you don't really help each other much in there because you're kind of your own island and
Yes.
you have to, So later, when I was moved to the lower security places like camps and things, which it's totally, camps are, I don't even know why they're there. They're very open. Uh, I mean, there's everything in a camp. You're not supposed to have booze and cell phones, that stuff. They're all open camps,
Yeah.
but the security is very low. And once you move there, I give you an example. In the first prison I was in, we call it behind the fence. There was some cartel guys in there. There was, there was a lot of Mexican gang members. I did time with George Jung, who the movie Blow was written about. Johnny
Wow.
Depp played him. And George was a nice guy. He was just a nice old guy. And some big level people and some very violent people in there. When I got to the camp, I was doing time with, ex-congressmen, doctors, a couple of lawyers, some cops, low-level people that, you know, so it's a total different thing. Both of them give you great ideas for stories.
Wow.
And next year I will have finished the book about the prison, my trip to the prison, and I I wasn't going to do it because I kind of got to I don't want to deal with this anymore. But I've had a lot of people who've read the first two books say, "No, you got to do it. You really have to do
Yes.
this one."
That's
So
amazing.
I started the process about a month ago. So we'll see how it goes.
That's amazing, Jack. And I would love to invite you back, when you, even in the halfway, if you want to come and talk about the process about that book, because I know it takes a lot. It does take a lot of commitment and hours. So I'm already looking forward to having you again on the show.
Well, that'd be awesome. I'd love to. I like to talk, as you can tell.
And
My
that's
wife will tell you that.
amazing. But I love the story. So please come and visit us again. And just thank you so much for the inspiration and just showing us and reminding us that you are not what happened to you. It really is how you handle it at the end of the day.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. Like I said, if anybody ever has, I'll give you my website. And if anybody has any
Please.
questions, I kind of let people do it. So the website is it's JACKS dash LRC.com. It's Jack's LRC. The LRC comes from a character I made up who's kind of me, Elroy Crow. It's L period Roy Crow, not Elroy. So uh, he's my alter ego, I guess you would say.
Okay.
Actually, I wrote some songs out as Elroy Crow. It just came out as an album here about a month ago. So that's
Wow.
out on Spotify and stuff. So, but writing songs is much easier than writing books. I'll tell everyone that right away. Uh, but yeah, if people want to visit that, they can take a look at it. I have some blogs. Try to put some things of interest on to read. And I love to hear people. They like it, don't like it. Uh, I want to close with one thing to tell people to stay inspired. When I was in prison and we decided the first book we were going to try and get a publisher, I wrote 124 letters out and little things
What?
to different publishers and got 64 no's that were all from the thing of no thanks. Looks good, but no thanks right now.
Yes.
Most of them didn't read it. To a bunch of them, we don't deal with convicts. Got a bunch of those.
Wow.
We don't deal with convicts.
Wow.
After we put the book out, we had a couple of publishers come to us and we turned them down. You know,
That's
uh,
amazing.
and so don't get discouraged. I mean,
Love that.
if it's something you want to get out, get it out.
That's
You
an
know,
episode on its own right there. And just to keep on sending those letters, because I mean that you write letters or that you send emails.
yeah, 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 because you actually had to sit down and write all these out. With a pen,
Exactly.
with a pencil.
What? No.
Yeah, and so people they're probably getting this going. Well, this isn't for real. the very last one that I actually got a note from actually a guy, a publisher back. He said, "I'm actually interested. I'm retiring, but is this for real? Can you send me something else?" He gave me a topic to write about. It was actually about fishing. Can you write something about this topic and send it back to him? So I did. He goes, "You are for real," and
Wow,
he actually passed on sometime short after that. But that was encouraging.
that's
I said,
amazing.
"Look, we got something back, and someone besides you're a convict. I
Yeah,
know
that's
that."
amazing. I mean, and it really is. I think the big lesson is just overall for people not to label each other. That's actually I'm working on a children's book now, all about labeling, not labeling other people.
It'd be wise if people could follow that rule a little bit. A lot of people seem to have problems with that. I don't know what the issue is, and it's not just people in prison. It's like people in religion, people in government, people you work with. I mean, yeah, I don't know. They immediately see someone do some one thing, and I'm not even talking about a crime, one thing, and they put this thing right across their forehead
Yes.
forever. That's what you are. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. So in my children's book, to give you like a little sneak peek, they get these big like heads and they wear these crowns with their label, so that's gonna be interesting.
It will be very interesting. It'd be a great lesson for everyone, even adults, I think, to try
And
that.
it's to get rid of the big head. You can barely scratch your head because it's so big because of this label, this crown that you're carrying. So the ideal is just to walk with a normal head at the end of the day. So I'm
And
still crafting that.
well, keep at it. The timing couldn't be any better. That's for sure.
100%. Jack, it was lovely having you. Thank you so much for visiting me here. And I'm looking forward to having you back. For everyone who tuned in today, be inspired by Jack's story, the humor, even in the hard situations and spending time with Christmas Father. I can't imagine that you're ever the same after that. So keep on writing, everyone, and keep on shining.
I'm going to tell you thank you, viewers, and thank you very much. I had a great time.
I'm so glad. Bye, everyone.
Just watch me shine.